for watching my channel. I hope that you liked the video that I provided today and find it useful and educational. I am a left-handed person that taught myself to knit right-handed, but if you can only knit left-handed, that is completely fine, and I hope that my video can help you and provide you with useful information. If you have any questions, you're more than welcome to drop it in the comments below and I will see how I can assist you. I do apologize about the slight echo in my video, but I do hope that you'll still like the video and want to watch it and learn from it. In order to start knitting, you will need 2 knitting needles and 1 skein of yarn. So the knitting needles I'm using is wooden needles, because I did find that wooden needles does help the yarn to grip better to the needle. I also use thicker yarn and thicker knitting needles because it does help a lot to see your stitches better, and in order to knit a little bit better, to just get a better feel for it. It's going to feel a little bit strange in the beginning, but with a lot of practice it will start to feel normal and your hands will get used to it. So in order to get started, the first thing you'll need to do is to make a slip knot. To be able to make a slip knot, you're going to take a strand of your yarn and you're going to have the tail end. So the tail end is the part that is not attached to the yarn, and then you have your working yarn. The working yarn is the part that is attached to the yarn, to the skein. So in order to start, you're going to take the tail end of your yarn and you're going to take it through the back and you're going to see a loop form. Then you're going to take the working yarn through the loop and you're going to take both of your strands and you're just going to pull it tight. Then you're going to have a loop. If you want the loop to be smaller, you can just take the 2 strands at the bottom and you can pull them apart from each other to make your circle a little bit smaller. Once you have it the desired size that you would like, you can put it onto your knitting needle. Good. So once it's on your knitting needle and it looks a little bit loose, you can just pull it a bit tighter. You shouldn't pull it too tight because then it's going to be difficult to knit once you start your first row. So you want it to still be able to move freely over your knitting needle. So once you have your slip knot on the knitting needle, you can start to cast on. The method I'm going to show you is the long tail cast on. So what you're going to do is you're going to form a loop with your hand. So you're going to make a little loop like that, and you're just going to flip it around. Once you've flipped it around, you can just put it onto your knitting needle and you can pull it tight. And you're going to repeat this process until you have the desired amount of stitches on your needle that you would like. So we're going to do that again. So you're going to make a little loopy, then you're just going to flip it around and you're going to put it on your knitting needle, and on the working side of your yarn, you're just going to pull it tight. So you're going to make a little loop, you're going to flip it around, put it on your knitting needle, take the working side of your yarn and pull it tight. So currently I have 4 stitches on my needle. I'm going to cast on 6 stitches for demonstration purposes. So you're going to make a little loopy, you're going to flip it around and you're going to cast it onto your needle. And you're just going to pull the working strand tighter. So I'll do one more. You're going to take a little loop, you're going to flip it around over your knitting needle and you're just going to pull the working strand of your yarn tighter. So as you see, you currently have 6 stitches on your knitting needle. So this is how a stitch looks. So it's 1 stitch, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So now you're going to have to start your first row in knitting. So the first row is maybe going to feel a little bit strange, which is fine, and with a lot of practice you'll get used to it. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your free knitting needle and you're going to put it through the front of the stitch to the back. So you're going to put it through the stitch, and then you're going to take your working yarn and you're going to take it around the back knitting needle and you're going to put it through the middle of the 2 knitting needles. Then you're going to take your back knitting needle and you're going to bring it downwards towards you, and then you're going to see a little gap start to form between the 2 knitting needles. So you want to bring the back knitting needle through that little gap. and then you see a new stitch start to form. So you can just slide it off of your other knitting needle. So you're going to take your other knitting needle and you're going to put it through the back, and you're going to take your working strand and you're going to take it around the back of the other knitting needle, through the middle of the two knitting needles, and you're going to bring your back knitting needle downwards towards you until you see the little gap that forms between the top knitting needle and the bottom knitting needle. That's where you're going to put the bottom knitting needle through, and then you will see a new stitch start to form, and then you can just take it off. So you're just going to repeat this process until you reach the end of the row. So you're going to take it through the back of the stitch. You're going to take your working yarn around the back knitting needle, through the middle of the two knitting needles. You're going to bring your back needle downwards, and you're going to bring it through the little gap that's in between. You're just going to repeat until you reach the end of your row. So once you've reached the end of your row, your needles will look like follows. All your little loopies should be looking downwards. If your loops are twisted up a bit, you can just take it down, because they all need to be looking in the same direction. Otherwise your work is going to twist. So the next thing you want to do is you want to start row 2. In order to start row 2, you're just going to flip your work. So the knitting needle should be looking to the right way. So if your loops are a little bit tight, what you always can do is you can just take the loop that goes over the strand of yarn and you can pull it downwards a bit. Then it gives you a little bit more space for you to put your knitting needle through. That is why I recommend using thicker yarn, because it does help you to see what you're doing better. So then you're going to take your knitting needle through the back. You're going to take your working yarn around the back knitting needle, through the middle of the eggs, and you're going to bring down your back knitting needle through the little gap upwards, and there's your new stitch that formed. Then you're just going to take it off with your other knitting needle. So it's through the back, the other knitting needle. Then you're going to take your working yarn around the other knitting needle, through the eggs, and you're going to bring your back knitting needle downwards towards you until you see your little gap start to form. And you're just going to put your knitting needle through it, and then you'll see a new stitch form, and you can just take it off. You're going to proceed with these steps until you reach the end of row 2. Let's see. Okay, so it's through the back of the stitch until you see a little X form. Then you're going to take your working yarn around the back knitting needle, through the eggs, and then you're going to see a little gap form, and you're going to take it through that little gap, and then you can proceed to your next knitting needle. So now you should be at the end of row 2. So if you're at the end of row 2, you'll start to see your knitting start to form. So this is how it will look after row 2. If your knitting is still a little bit wonky or uneven, that's completely fine. With practice it will start to get better, and once you've learned more about tension and how your tension works, then your knitting will start to look nicer. It just takes a little bit of practice, and your hands are going to feel weird in the beginning, but there's a point where it just starts to get better and you'll feel more comfortable with your knitting. It just takes some practice, especially when you're left-handed. You feel very frustrated about it, but it does get better. It's just at a certain point it clicks and you'll start to feel much more comfortable with your knitting. So we're going to start now to row 3. So you're just going to flip your work around again so that your knitting needle looks right. So once it did that, you're going to take your free knitting needle and you're just going to put it through the back of the stitch again. So if your stitches are a little bit tight, I would just recommend you can just take the little loop that's over the strand. You can just pull it down a bit. See, I'll bring it up for you. You can just pull it down, and then you have a little bit of stitch space. So it isn't as tight and you'll knit comfortably. But after the first 2 rows, it will get better. It will start to feel a bit more loose and it won't be as tight. It's the first 2 rows are usually the worst. So you're going to take it from the front to the back of your knitting needle, And then you're going to take your working yarn and you're going to bring it around the back of the knitting needle through the middle, and you're going to bring your back knitting needle downwards until you see that little gap start to form, and then you can just bring it upwards and off of your knitting needle. And you can just repeat this process again to the end of your row. And the best thing about this is you can make a scarf out of it, and it's a good way to practice, so that you get more comfortable with knitting and your hands feel more comfortable, and eventually it will just feel much better. Okay. There we go. So now you finish row 3. Once you finish row 3, this is how it will look. There we go. So if it's uneven or it looks a bit strange, it's completely okay. It's how it's going to look in the beginning. It's fine, and with more practice it will start to look better as well. So what I'm going to do is I'll do one more row with you. Okay, I'm going to do row 4. So it's the same. If the strand's a little bit tight, you can just bring them downwards so that you have a bit of space to work with. So you're going to bring your knitting needle from the front through the back of the needle so that you see a little X4. Then you're going to take your working strand through the back, through the middle of your 2 knitting needles, and you're just going to bring down your back knitting needle downwards until you see your little gap, and you're going to bring it up and off with the other knitting needle. This is just how you're going to proceed until you've reached the end of your row. In the beginning it's going to feel very, very strange, and your hands just need to get used to it, but once they're used to it, you're going to feel it's very easy and it's going to be very fun. There we go. So now we have 4 rows. You can use a variegated yarn. That way, if you make a simple bodice stitch shawl, it still looks very cool and nice. I made 2 scarves that are garter stitch. So all I did was I cast on 10 stitches and I just knitted each row until I reached the desired length. Okay, this is the scarf I made using plain garter stitch. So the size needles I used was 5mm needles, and I used 5mm knitting wool. So garter stitch will eventually start to look like this. So I'm going to bring it up to the camera so you can see better. That's how garter stitch looks, or knit stitch. So you can knit a simple scarf with that if you just continue on with the row until it's the length you would like. I sewed my scarf together, so it's more like a cowl actually, because I wanted it for the winter, so I thought it might be warmer that way. And I did it in a variegated yarn, so each quadrant's a different color. But you can choose what you would like to do. You can even add beads to it later if you would like. I also made a scarf like that. But you can just continue practicing and knitting the garment as long as you would like it to be. It's a good way to practice, and it will get better with time. I'll attach a photo of my first knitting project so you can see how it looked, and with practice it did get a lot better. So my first project was wonky as well, and it looked a little bit strange, and I didn't know where all the stitches was and how to knit, and I had to learn how to knit right. But eventually it got a lot better. And today I'm knitting much more comfortably, and it gets better every day. You just need to practice, and eventually it will feel much more normal. Thank you so much for watching my channel, and I do hope that my demonstration helped you. If you have any other questions, or if you felt the video wasn't helpful enough, or there's certain parts that you would like me to demonstrate better or explain better, please drop a comment and let me know. Or you can send me an email as well if you would like, and I'll answer your email and I'll explain to you as well. Thank you again for watching my channel. I really do appreciate. Have a wonderful day further, and please remember to like and subscribe. Thank you.